C'est a good team.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. We got Shark Talk 121 coming at you. It is April 27th. Market's a disaster. But Ben, you just got back from a trading experts trip. I'd love to hear about it.
So, definitely a great time. I think just a little, we were talking in the chat before about this repair shop, where if we go back a few weeks, I came into the city a few weeks ago, got a flat tire, had to get the car repainted and all this work done to it to get it prepared for the rally. So we're good for this, this 600 or so mile car ride that we go on every year. Mm-hmm. We get in this rally, and mind you, I was in a motorcycle accident the week prior, and most of the members didn't really know. So when we pulled up and we're all meeting up, and I get out with a cane and I'm limping, Jay is like freaking out that we're still going on this trip when I barely could walk. But we get into the first day of the rally, and we're going to get breakfast at a very rural spot in Virginia. Maybe the median home there is $100,000. So it's not the nicest area, but still a great place. And we're pulling into this little breakfast spot, and we have Jay's McLaren and my car and a couple of these nice cars. And as we get out, we notice that my other tire has a flat, and it's Saturday morning in rural Virginia. Everything's closed. And we look like idiots. We just pull up with these nice cars, and we're immediately getting out trying to fix my car, which
clearly the out of towners. What are you boys doing here?
Yeah. So we get some advice on where the nearest tire shop is, and we go, and my preface is the day before we rode very hard through these mountain roads, and my power steering started to act up after going pretty fast for a couple hours. But the steering was very stiff. So when we pulled in to get the tire fixed, I looked at the mechanic. I'm like, hey, can you guys do power steering as well or anything else? The guy looked at me like I had 8 heads. He's like, look, man, we just do tires. That's all we do. And they didn't have a tire that would fit the car, obviously, because it's a very, specific tire. But they have a smaller tire that they can kind of ghetto rig to work. And I'm like, whatever, man, just put a tire on, and we'll figure it out.
Right.
So we leave the car at the shop. And then we go back and get breakfast, and this lady's calling me frantic. She's like, I need you to come back. I need you to come back. I need you to get your car. And I'm like, it's been 10 minutes. We're literally a quarter mile up the road to getting breakfast. We'll be right back.
What could have happened in that?
Yeah, I'm like, is everything okay? What's going on with the car? And she's like, no, we're almost done, but we just need to get the car out of the bay for other customers. And I didn't realize I took the keys with me. Luckily, because the mechanic there was covered in grease. So if he would have moved my car, it would have been filthy. But she was freaking out. We go back there, and I was the only car in the parking lot still. We're like, lady, there's nobody here. We're your only customer. But anyways, they fixed the car. They got luckily they were this Fitzgerald's auto body shop saved the day, because if they did not have even a tire that wouldn't have fit, I would have been flatbed the car home from Virginia back to Jersey, which would have not been the funnest way to end the rally. But great time. We went out the one night, and Bloody Blake, who lives down there, came and met us down there. And meanwhile, again, I'm have my leg lifted up with ice pack on it. We're sitting on the deck, and he's telling us places to go to eat for dinner. And he said, there's this great spot downtown. We can walk around. We can go to these different bars and stuff. And I'm just looking at him. I'm like, I literally have a cane in my hand and an ice pack in my foot, 3 feet in the air. And I'm like, dude, I can't walk. I barely could get in and out of the car, let alone just to start, doing some laps, up and down the street. But it was, definitely a good time. We definitely drove a lot more this time than we did last year. We got some definitely some cool videos. We did one of the drone shots you'll see. It's me and Justin. He's in a silver Evo, and I'm in the Mercedes, and we're flying through this road. And Heaven passes out, he's exhausted, and he's asleep in the backseat of Justin's car. But Justin has no idea. So we're doing, 80, 90 miles an hour through these windy roads, and Heaven's just asleep with the seatbelt on behind the driver's seat. And Justin has no idea until we get back in park, and then realize that Heaven is still sound asleep in the back of the car through the aggressive driving we did. But definitely a fun trip. Yeah. So great trip. We had some hiccups with the flat tire, but easily fixed. And hopefully next year, Shake, you'll have an RV or something that you can.
Hopefully, if we can only dream.
You can join us on. What about you? How was your cross country adventure?
Great cross country trip. Went in the RV. 50 hours of driving in 4 days. It was something to behold of. But I'll give you what you want. All right. So what is it? Second last day. We're just at this point we're just like, all right, let's just like book it home. Like we were doing all these stops across all these little like RV stations across the country. It was awesome. They're like $25 a night. Everyone is like super nice, and the towns sounds like they mirror that Virginia town you're in.
Uh-huh.
So you definitely see in the middle part of America there. But like after I drive like 6-7 hours, we go to do a switch out of the driver's seat. We pull up to a gas station and stop. Everything goes smoothly. We switch so we don't really look, And then we're driving on the highway, and these guys pull up on both sides of us, and they're like dying laughing. So Adele's like, Shake, like, come up here. These guys are like laughing at us, and I'm like standing behind her. She's driving, and I look in the rear view, and the fucking gas thing, the bleeping gas thing, is just completely attached to the car still. We're on like the freeway, like 5 lanes. Very small shoulder of the road. So I'm just like, oh shit. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, oh no. And I'm just like, maybe we should pull over. And I'm like, what? She's like, what the fuck's going on? And I'm like, pull over. We got the gas thing is still attached to the car. She pulls over. I gotta run out. And I'm not trying to get pulled over at this point in an RV. I run out. I grab the hose that's still there. And like, I'm like sucking myself up against the car because on the highway it's like choo,
yeah.
risking my life out there to get this hose out of the thing. So I just get it, I toss it over the guardrail, like screw the cap back on, and like hop back in. I'm just like go, like, get the hell out of here. But other than that, successful trip. We look like an asshole for a good 15-20 minutes there, but we made it out. Some other stories that aren't as exciting, but I'll leave you with that one. So yeah. Great trip. I got another cross country trip in like 2.5 months when we go back. So
hopefully,
really excited for that.
Well, now you learned your lesson. Now you got to make sure the gas pump is properly.
Yeah. Learned a lot of lessons. You don't have to do it in 4 days. It was I came back and I was just like a dead man for 2 days. But without further ado, can we get into the market outlook?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So the S&P. I mean, we've been under pressure. We had this strong rally off lows, and this is when they announced the first rate hike, the Fed, and it was only 25 basis points, which the market seemed to like in the short term. We made a run towards, previous resistance, and it's just been all down from there. We got this like mini little consolidation, and here's why it's so tricky, because when you make a run off lows like this, where 11 to 12 days are green, that's not your typical bear market rally. Your typical bear market rally is more like, let's say these couple days when the war started, where it was like, these huge 2 green up days, we consolidate, then we move back lower. But when we do 10 out of 11 green days in the S&P, that's tricky. So now what made this area so tricky right here in the middle of this range is this is like a nice 50% retracement. So if you take this out of there, it's like, well, stocks go either way at this point. If we're factoring in this run, we pull into this area, 50% retracement, you could expect some buying, and we get some of that buying, and then it just ended up being such a bull trap. And now with where the S&P is sitting and all the headwind risk we have ahead of us, this type of selling pressure, these 3 or 4 days, like if you look at yesterday's bounce, 2 days ago's bounce, that weak bounce that was just completely negated yesterday. Mm-hmm. It's like we can only test this big support area so many times. It seems like at this point, stocks have to crack this level. I think maybe we could bounce this, let's say 430 area in the SPY or this previous, but the sellers are just clearly in control. I'm a little worried. We got Apple earnings and Amazon tomorrow after the close, and there's such heavy weights in the market that if they don't deliver, the market could be under some serious pressure if Apple and Amazon get smoked. So it's definitely more of a time to be cautious. I'm still mapping out all the earnings names that I like. We'll talk about that later. But it's definitely more of a risk-off time because it's just a very, very bearish outlook right now. There's no way to put it. It's we bounced off this support area in the beginning of March or mid-March, whenever that was, and that was a nice rally. But then it just created this massive right shoulder, and now this pattern looks like it's got to come to fruition very soon. So I actually at this point I want to see the support break down to the 400, maybe even 390 level, and see what comes of it in the SPY. But in the short term, it's not looking like there's too many risk on long trades that'll be happening.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I was saying kind of very similar in the big picture where I'm with you. I'm expecting kind of like that shakeout. Like even like that, like February 25th lower where we gapped down huge and it got brought back up. Like that has been like the low or the line in the sand.
Your line in the sand, yeah.
Yeah, for the past few months now. But really, that's just that low where like really like the psychological level 400 in the SPY, like you mentioned, is probably the more key spot. And like you said, we probably have to expect it to shake out. And just going across every sector, even like a week or two ago, we had you had energy, you had utilities, you had staples, you had a lot of these names that were near highs, and all of those are just completely reversed, those moves. We had, materials testing new all-time highs, less than a week ago. Now we're back dead smack in the range. You have, energy that's been on a major run all of 2022, finally breaking that like pretty steep uptrend it's been on. Consumer staples took on all-time highs. It's back, kind of rolling back over its prior breakout. And this was, even with this kind of move in the staples where it takes out the high, it breaks out, looks amazing, but then rolls back over. We saw this with a lot of like the leading, tech-heavy names. Even, not even tech, but even think like a name like Etsy had that similar move where, this was end of 2021, where it takes out that high, breaks out to new all-time highs, and then it rolls back under that prior breakout level, and then it's pretty dead for the foreseeable future. So again, like you said, a lot of bearish activity out there. It just seems like
touched on something.
Yep.
You touched on something I want to touch up on that was different from all these pukes that we haven't seen before. Every time we've puked so far this year, we would see at least a flight to safe haven stocks, whether it be energies, whether it be utilities. But this time, we're just seeing a risk reduction across the board. There's really no safe havens. There's nowhere to hide in the stock market because everything started feeling pressure last week. And that was like the big change I saw because I was in all these energy names. I had some good exits we'll talk about later. But, seeing all those names, not being able to continue to run and just completely getting washed out, is like, all right, that's a big change for the market. Now I think we just got to smoke this support level and see what's next.
Yeah. And even like you mentioned with the utilities, I have the chart. I know Shake, you can't see it, but I have it kind of mapped out where, from March until April, we had this very easy move, 10, 15% run up off its recent low. That's like the easy move. We saw this little flag at highs. We kind of mapped out like that little pivot under 164, where if you were in utilities, underneath that area is probably the spot to start taking some profits if you're in them. And now this is like the hard trade, and we're seeing this with a lot of individual names where they've gone on these nice runs, but now like when it starts getting more painful, this is oftentimes when you want to rush back into the name because it appears cheap. This is often when it's going to get cheaper, and you need to give it 2 or 3 weeks to a month to really kind of flush itself out. Than trying to rush in too early, and then you get mentally exhausted trying to fight with these names when it's just not the time to do so.
Yeah, absolutely. Where are we going now?
Top ideas.
All right, I got a nice little list. I mapped this one earlier on the Alpha Chat, but I'll go through. I have a huge list of earnings names that I like in the future, but they need a lot of work on the charts to get us to buy them. But I'll talk about some that my few that are getting there. This PAG, automotive, through this 105 area. A nice consolidation here. Strong reaction to earnings. That one looks good. This IBM. I think this IBM has such a massive trade in it. Now, anything tech related has been really, really tough. But if we look on a monthly chart, coming out of this huge consolidation, this could have a massive, massive breakout ahead of it. But it's going to take some time because tech's got to wash out right now. This MGP, REIT, this chart looks actually pretty ready soon. I'm looking at this 4125 area. Just a really nice consolidation here. This SNA, I've been staring at this name for like a year. I have some of my long-term account. Might be time to add this 225 area. You see this huge consolidation. And again, consumer durables, tools and hardware stock. It's like more of a value stock than anything else. And that's, again, not tech related. That's kind of what we want right now. Kimberly-Clark, KMB, same sector. Needs a lot of sideways to get us to buy it. We need these moving averages to catch up here. But again, through this 145, whenever that wants to matriculate it at any point this quarter, I'm going to look to buy that one. This is my favorite one. I think Mike called this out in the chat, this REXR. It's not ready yet, as you can tell by the action today. Market might need that rinse. but it's got this beautiful cup and handle. Eventually, when it wants to take out this 8250 area, that's where I want to be involved. This ALLE is looking to break a massive downtrend. We see the positive action. This is earnings right here. We see the gap up on earnings. Now it's flagging out. So I'm looking to get involved with that one, 117. That one could come soon. Not sure if I'm ready to put risk on yet. AAL, airlines, huge comeback in the airlines. This one needs a lot of time. But I'm still going to key in on these airlines. They had a major change of composure, and the big change was that we finally saw more people than we saw before the pandemic taking flights. So that's just a huge piece of information. That tells me the airlines are back, and the stocks will want to come back with them. This PEB, it's a REIT again, more of a value name. Beautiful saucer here through this 26 area. Looks really good for new highs. Fiserv, FISV. This one's sitting within a huge downtrend. It's looking to break it on these earnings. Very strong reaction earnings. We want to see a nice little daily flag. Then we want to buy up through that 104. And I think last but not least, this Visa. Very strong reaction. Tough day today as it sold off at the market at the end of the day, but they still closed up 6.5%. So we want this one to flag out, and then 222 to 224 area. That'll give us a trade. But again, most of these trades are weeks away, and that's really all we can do at a time like this is game plan for future trades, because it's just so much chop and random action out there right now. So definitely more of a patience, sitting time than anything else. What are you looking at over there?
So still this SEE, again, like you said, not for some time, up to that 70. Blue Sky Breakout. ESS, one of these REIT names, had earnings today. Kind of faded that move, but definitely had some buyers at some point here, but did it fade into the close. But up to that 360 in time. That's another Blue Sky Breakout in the REIT space. EQR was another one on the radar, but pretty crappy earnings, and they kind of just smoked that prior pivot. But eventually, in time through this 93, but this will probably not be for months, probably not even until next quarter. And lastly, this IT is still kind of holding up. I'm focusing more on the buy up through the base of that base breakthrough 310. Right now, it's hovering near support. It's probably going to shake out lower. Maybe even it's go down to 260 before that's the case, but up to 310 whenever that wants to happen. That's when I'll want to be involved.
All right. So a little good trade, bad trade?
Yeah.
All right. Let me get this. All right. So on my screen here, I have the LMT daily chart. We were loving these defense names. And you can't see my dots on screen. It was over 7 days ago. But I'll tell you the trade is, we bought up through this, what is that? This 449 area. We wanted to move into new highs. And I ended up exiting this day before earnings. Mm-hmm. And it was such a frustrating exit where it was popping in the morning. It touched this like 475. And when these thin names, it's not even a thin name, but this is something I've been experiencing so much lately. I had like 600 shares. I was trying to exit, and I keep going high offer, mm-hmm. and the stock just sinks. And that ended up getting out instead of like 470. I ended up getting out like 464. So that was a difference of like $3,000 there. That kind of sucked. But so that helped me see the writing on the wall of these defense names, and I'll show you the rest. This NOC, we were in this NOC. Again, similar entry, it's 456 or whatever. And I ended up getting out this day completely before the big sell-off because that LMT, it's like I saw the writing on the wall of that, how those LMT earnings were handled. Mm-hmm. And then similar with this GD. That's why. Okay. So this GD, we were sitting in off this area right here. And it tried to make new highs. What was the entry here? 242-ish. It tries to make new highs. And then those LMT and the NOC started selling off. So my stop was all the way down here, 237. But I just bounced from the trade at like 246, 247. I was very heavy in that name. So I saved myself a ton of money in that. It's not, not the best trade in the world, but sometimes being defensive can really help. The Civi, CIVI. This was maybe the best exit I've had in my career. We bought this 58 area, obviously huge breakout, didn't sell any then. Retest the area successfully here, retest the area successfully here. We actually added against this 58, and then when we saw all these oil names making new highs and sharply reversing, That's when I just got out of all my stock at the 66 area. You know, I got out of 5% of my position down here at my price, but you know, I got out of the bulk of my stock. I held on to all that money. And you'll see in this Oxy the same thing, where we were buying these things at highs, and this was the big change in the market I was saying before, where you know I saw the NASDAQ names breaking down, and what we've seen in the past is the energy names getting lifted when this happens. So that was the big change in the market. I was buying this Oxy here, and we'll go to intraday chart, and I saw it broke to these new highs, new 52-week highs, and all this volume came in, and it just started dumping right away. So that's when I got out of all my size. It was very, very heavy in the name, but that was just like, okay, there's something big changing in the market right now. That's what it showed me. This OKE, same thing. This is trade of the week. We bought this here, this 72, and I got very defensive on this day, and I sold pretty much all into the 74.50, 75 area. Got out some at my price here, but again, the exit at highs there, noticing the change in how energy and just utilities and risk-off names were moving was a big plus. A bad trade was this NLV. You can't see it. Nope, I don't have the execution still. But we bought this 2050 area, gave us a nice little pop, wanted more follow-through, and it ended up dumping on us. The mistake I made in the trade is that I was expecting some more follow-through on day 3, April 19, and it came back to my price. Now, instead of getting out of some stock, I was like, you know what, maybe it bounces in this area, it's previous resistance. In this environment, you got to be much more defensive. So I took a full loss on all my shares. I should have dumped half my shares without taking a loss there in that NOV when it came right back to my price. And then, the worst thesis trade, but best to work out of all time, Twitter. So I bought this Twitter on this day here, this 46. And I ended up selling it yesterday into that 51. And the thesis for the trade is like, you know what? When you're the richest guys in the world, you know, billionaires, when Musk and things get involved, they get what they want. They're used to getting what they want all the time. So that was my thesis in the trade. It was, this guy probably gets what he wants. He's going to push and push and push, and he's got enough money to do it. So we bought this 46, and I got it out of 51 here. Didn't make a killing on the trade, but nice winner in this environment. And that's the bulk of what I've been up to. No real position trades lately since then, and now I'm back to just being bored over here. What have you been trading?
So I got 3. So I got OKE with you. Only difference, more so for me, I got stopped out under, I think it was like 74 or 73. I don't remember the exact price, but I remember for me it was like a red flag where, again, I'm not the most active person who's going to sell into strength. I typically want to buy on the way up and get stuff on the way down. That's typically how most of my trades go. And with this OKE, for me, it was a red flag. Like on that day, whatever day this was, I guess the 21st, the same day you were selling, I was throwing all these offers up. You know, when 75 was looking like it was going to break off the open, I'm like, all right, 75.15, 75.24, 34, like every 15, 20 cents up. If there's going to be this continuation, I can catch this, this up move. And once I did that, I was like, oh God, I'm like, this is kind of a red flag. When I've done this in the past in these names, it's usually times, like you mentioned, to be more defensive. So I pared down those offers and had a stop under, I guess it was under 74. I got hit for some, and then the name bounced up a little bit, and I was like, you know what, let me put this stop again under 74, and if it rolls back over, I'll be out. I'll make $2 in a trade, and versus giving it back to break even. And looking at it now, no one, I don't think you would have expected. I don't think I was expecting the same to drop, back into 65. Maybe we would have.
No way.
So that's one of those things where it's like in the moment, I'm expecting to go to 67. I'm sorry, 76, 77. I'm expecting that action, and I'm seeing the opposite of that, where I'm glad I made some money in this versus this typically would have been a trade I probably would have broke even in. And then the other two were failed trades, but just great risk reward. Again, was not expecting the market pullback that we had, but this is why we use sell stop. So for TSCO, it's a blue sky breakout, had never broken above 240. I'm buying it at the most expensive this name has ever traded at. That's what I want to be buying this name when it's the most expensive and trading higher. The day I got in was this kind of doji at high, so that's a little bit of a red flag that I'm expecting a breakout, but I'm seeing indecision in the name. So instead of what I was originally giving this name versus this 220, which was the proper out, because it's a much bigger pattern, I see this doji. It's like clearly I don't need to give this name this much room when I'm buying 240 and it goes $1 in my favor. There's no reason to give $20 worth of risk where I get $1 of follow through. So after seeing that day close, it was okay. I'm giving this versus the low a day, so I'm risking $6, whatever. Next day, inside day, little doji again, more indecision. And the next day or whenever these inside days break, it's either buyers are going to take control or sellers. And in this case, they were the sellers. And I got stopped out. I lost, whatever it was, 240 versus, I lost $5 a share on a $240 stock, 1.5% loss. Can live with it all day long. And avoiding the, 20% drop in the next couple of days is, a huge thing to avoid. And then basically same thing with the GD, I know you were calling this one out, this tight little, flag that was forming, bought it up to that 247, a little bit of fall through the next day. But again, that same little doji, same indecision. And for me, there was no sense of giving this versus like 242, 240, 242 area, seeing that information that it was like, okay, next day if it's going to trade higher, amazing. If it's going to trade lower, it's probably going to go to that area anyways. So no sense in giving it extra room when I'm not getting the fall through to the upside. So this was a 0.5% loss. TSCO was 1.5, and then OKE, whatever that was, I think a 3 or 4% gain. So very tight losses. Okay winner, nothing crazy, but now just back in cash and avoiding the pullback.
Yeah.
So that was my week.
All right, good stuff. And with that, we going to book a week.
Yep.
All right. So I don't have a book for you, but I got a life lesson for you.
Okay.
This will save our listeners way more money than any book will tell you. And when you're buying a house, Bennett, you have it inspected, right? But the inspector, he's got so many jobs. He's got to look at this. He's got to look at that. If you don't get a plumber in there to go look at the pipes and do a snake cam through all the pipes or through the traps, you're gonna find yourself having a bad time a year later. So my advice to anyone buying a house out there: have a plumber come when you get it inspected. You'll save yourself thousands and thousands of dollars later on. And that's currently what I'm experiencing. Well, there's your knowledge of the week from Mr. Shake. What are you reading over there?
I guess actually I don't have a book on me.
Look at us.
So we're gonna have to nix the book on my end for this week.
All right. Well, with that, folks, we'll see you next week. Hope you enjoyed the chart talk. Likes, questions, subscribes, all those things. And with that, we're out.